Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I am your host, Emil Blonsky, and I plan on taking Wong down in the first round. All right, folks, so it is Tuesday after a pretty interesting weekend of odd bits of news and stuff involving Marvel Comics. We are going to get into that as well as talk about, what we might see coming up for the new episode of Loki, which will debut at midnight here on the West Coast and at 3 a.m. on the East Coast. I am very much looking forward to that after the third episode was pretty crazy. I have been informed that our producer Kyle is also in a meeting right now. So that means we could pretty much get away with murder during the show, and he may not notice. He might be distracted. So this could be a fun one. All right. We are going to jump into it with, let's kick things off today with an actual confirmation from Marvel. Yep. Their actual confirmation about something folks has been talking about over the last couple days. Kevin Feige has told Rotten Tomatoes that is indeed Wong taking on the Abomination in the second and final trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, this was his quote. He said, "Yes, we just recently released the final trailer for Shang-Chi. Some fans said, this looks like a character they haven't seen in many years named the Abomination fighting a character that looks like Wong. And I can say that the reason it looks like that is because that is the Abomination fighting Wong." Now, we haven't seen the Abomination since 2008's Incredible Hulk, where he was played by Tim Roth, opposite of Ed Norton's Hulk. Now, the character started off as Emil Blonsky, a British SAS soldier loaned to General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross to hunt down Bruce Banner. Now, after seeing the Hulk for the first time, and basically watching his entire squad get their ass kicked, Blonsky decided, well, yeah, maybe I need a little boost, and Ross offers him a version of the super soldier serum, and it enhanced him quite a bit. He was able to run faster, hit harder, those kind of things, but he was still going up against the Hulk, who basically broke every bone in Blonsky's body. Well, he healed and went back out there and ended up when they captured the Hulk, they were able to subdue him without having to fight. They subdued him as Banner. And then so that led to Blonsky getting a chance to talk to Samuel Stearns, played by Tim Blake Nelson. And he convinced Stearns, who, of course, in the comics goes on to be the leader, the big-headed little green guy with the super mind. He convinces Stearns to inject him with some of Banner's gamma-irradiated blood, which, mixed with the super soldier serum, turns Blonsky into the Abomination. Now, they end up fighting in Brooklyn, and Blonsky loses and ends up on the raft, and he's been in there for a long time. So how he ends up in what appears to be Madripoor in a tournament fight, that remains to be seen. Okay, also, it appears like Blonsky has continued to mutate. We see that his appearance is getting closer and closer to that in the comics. He's got the bigger webbed ears. He's actually got some kind of trunks on now, where he was just running around Harlem Commando and fighting the Hulk that way. But it does look like he is much more to the comic version. And hello, Elevator's Not Worthy. How you doing? All right. Now, Feige also said that it's fun It's a fun thing to have a character that we haven't seen on screen in over a decade show up again in the MCU. And to see fans on the little tag of the trailer recognize that and embrace it is great fun. Now, as for Wong, he is, of course, played by Benedict Wong and first appeared in Doctor Strange, and then again in both Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. There had been rumors of Wong appearing when the actor was seen having dinner with Shang-Chi actor Simu Liu while the movie was in production down in Australia or New Zealand, wherever it was filmed. They had gone out for a Korean barbecue and the waiter snapped a pic and posted it. Well, with these two appearing in the trailer, that made me start to wonder what other characters might appear in the film. I mean, if we're already showing Abomination and Wong in the trailer, who else could they sneak in there? So I took a look at what some people consider the top 10 Marvel martial artists, and some of the names you get are quite interesting. Of course, both Shang-Chi and Wong are on that trailer. Well, Elevator, it may not make sense to us, but Kevin Feige has confirmed that it is Abomination and it's Wong. So we know that now. There could be that this tournament is for something important, like access to a realm or something that they need, that the government needs, and of course Karmotage would want, and Wenwu or the Mandarin would want, so he wants to send Shang-Chi to there. So that's what I'm thinking, is that tournament is for something really important, that maybe a weapon or access to power, and that by, the Abomination is who the U.S. government sends, and Wong is who Karmotage sends, that type of thing, and that's why Shang-Chi is there. That's my thought. Or maybe Shang-Chi's there to prevent his father from getting it. We'll have to wait and see for the trailer. But like I said, Kevin Feige has confirmed that that is the Abomination and it's Wong. So why they're there, don't know, but they're there. Now, I was just thinking some of the other, like I said, took a look for the 10 top martial artists in the Marvel Universe. Shang-Chi and Wong are on that list. So are Black Widow, Daredevil, and Mantis, none of whom I expect to see in the film. The Dora Milaje are listed. Now, it would be interesting to have a representative of the Dora Milaje there, and it would make sense that if all these other groups are sending someone to try to access win this tournament, that the Dora Milaje may send one of their people as well, maybe Io or something like that. So maybe we get a Dora Milaje sighting. But it would also be a good place to introduce some characters that we've seen maybe on the Netflix side, but they want to redo. So they could introduce Iron Fist here, Colleen Wing, or even Elektra with a hand. Those would all be interesting characters. Yeah, it's nice that Feige actually came out and confirmed it, because a lot of times they just let it go. So it's nice to see him actually come out and confirm it and be willing to confirm it and not just do the, you see who you see. So, but yeah, it would be interesting to see if they're going to introduce any of the characters that were from the. Now, I don't think they would bring the Netflix characters themselves over. Feige, when he's talked about which Netflix actors he really liked, they were Daredevil, Kingpin, Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, John Bernthal as the Punisher, and Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. There was no mention of Finn Jones as Iron Fist, or Jessica Henwick as Colleen Wing, or even, I can't think of the actress who plays Elektra off the top of my head right now, but none of them were mentioned. So if they were going to introduce those characters here, they would probably do so with new actors. Or they might just introduce the Hand and bring them into the MCU proper. Another character who made the list of the top martial artists, but who I doubt we'll see, would be Batroc the Leaper, who would have been perfect, and it would have been neat to see the fighter come in. But he did get killed in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. unless Shang-Chi takes place prior to Falcon and Winter Soldier. The whole time thing is kind of screwy. So it's possible. By the way, another thing that Kevin Feige talked about this weekend, and if you think Marvel regrets the whole Mandarin switcheroo from Iron Man 3, you'd be wrong. Feige talked about the Mandarin and how they wanted him in the MCU for a long, long time. He said, going back to Iron Man 1, we've been talking about that. When do we bring in the character to the screen? We only wanted to do it when we felt we could do its supreme justice and really showcase the complexity of the Mandarin, which frankly we couldn't do in an Iron Man movie because an Iron Man movie is about Iron Man and an Iron Man movie is about Tony Stark. So when Iron Man 3 director Shane Black came and he had this fun twist that we love to this day, it turned out to be Trevor Slattery. Just because that version wasn't real doesn't mean there's not a leader of the Ten Rings organization. And that is who we meet for the first time in Shang-Chi. So Feige still loves the whole bait and switch with the Mandarin Trevor Slattery thing. And I think with them introducing the Mandarin here with Wenwu, it may kind of retro people's feelings for Iron Man 3. They may not be as upset by it as they were when the film came out, because now they're going to get the Mandarin. They're getting it with an incredible actor like Tony Leung, and they're getting it in a Shang-Chi movie with all the proper pomp and circumstance that goes with it. Feige even referred to Tony Leung as an incredible actor and how happy he is to have him playing the character. So it'll be interesting to see what people's reaction becomes to Iron Man 3 now that it's not, oh, we were promised the Mandarin and we were duped. Well, now it's, we got the Mandarin in a great way, so this bait and switch earlier makes a lot of sense and we're okay with it. So, all right. Now, there was another big Marvel thing over the weekend. And this had to do with, it's the other end of the Marvel spectrum. And it's because somebody was tinkering with the end credit scene in the final episode of WandaVision. Now, it's very clear if you watch it and you can compare it to the unaltered version that there were changes. The scene we're talking about, of course, is the scene where Wanda is sitting in a cabin in the middle of the woods, or on the side of a lake, and the camera pushes in past her as she gets up to get the kettle off of the stove. And as we continue back into a back room, we see that while she's up moving, her astral projection is hovering over the bed, reading the Darkhold, which being able to have your astral projection out while functioning is something that even Doctor Strange can't do. So this was a nod to how powerful Wanda had become as the Scarlet Witch. Also, there were some things that made it feel more potentially Doctor Strange-ish than it was WandaVision. The music playing was the theme from Doctor Strange. And the way the camera pushed in through the trees, through the, into the cabin and carried through the back bedroom, that's actually a tracking shot that Sam Raimi kind of pioneered in the Evil Dead franchise. So now I don't know if he actually filmed that scene or if whoever was filming it was trying to do it a la Sam Raimi. We'll have to see. But if you can look at, and I had a chance to look at the two scenes side by side, one on top of the other, and it is very clear that some changes were made. There were additional trees added outside the cabin So it looks like it's a little more woodsy or foresty than the original one, which is a little more open area. There were some ducks in the lake in the original scene that are suddenly gone. And there's some lens flares that go by that are a little more pronounced than they were in the first one. There is also, when they really pan in on the cabin, there's this little odd light source over Wanda's left shoulder as she's getting up that seems distracting. And in the new one, that light source is gone. But that light source may be very important. Now, I don't know why they removed the ducks, but I'm guessing they removed they added the trees and stuff. I'm getting to it, Kyle. I'm getting to it. Kyle wants to know what my theory is. Now, I think that this scene is going to pretty much lead right into the Doctor Strange movie. So while they're out filming the Doctor Strange movie, it's possible that they needed to kind of adjust the scene in WandaVision to match up what we're going to see in Doctor Strange. Just a little bit of CGI editing, no big deal. The problem is that when you watch the scene, in the top left corner, as the camera is starting to push in, there is this little image, like almost a transparent or spectral image in the top left corner that keeps moving down closer and closer to the cabin as the camera is pushing in. And as it's doing it, some people have looked at it and thought, well, that looks like Doctor Strange's cape. Or other people thought it might be the white vision showing up. Now, he flew off, now he's returned. And they're looking at this shape as being somebody wrapped in a cape floating down towards the cabin. Kyle suggests it's Mephisto. But Mephisto, I think, would just appear in the cabin and not float in like from another land. But that said, it's been a big speculation. There are people out there going, 100% they've added Doctor Strange to the closing scene. He was supposed to be in the show. He was supposed to be the one sending the commercials as a way to communicate with Wanda. This is them adding him. I don't think so. If you look really closely at that little shape that's floating down towards the cabin, it's exactly the shape of the little light source that they took out when over Wanda's shoulder when the camera panned in. And most likely what happened is that's a filter that whoever was doing the changes on the scene made to cover the light source when it got in there, but they put it in too early. So instead of just putting it in long enough to cover the light, they put it in at the beginning of the scene. And that is where it would be if you backed the camera out or pulled the camera in. That is just the filter area that's covering the light source. Because it doesn't really look like anything more than just a blob with, it looks like somebody took the tool and traced it, the magic wand tool to create, not the magic wand tool, the line tool, whatever it is, to draw a shape around it. And then it just hung in there. Kyle says, who edited this? Me? So yeah, I'm not seeing it as anything more than just a CGI error. So don't start writing. It's not Doctor Strange. And I got to tell you, if Marvel wanted to put Doctor Strange in the scene, they would put Doctor Strange in the scene. It wouldn't be like a Rorschach test to see what you see, you know? It would be something obvious. I don't know why they would do this weird little image and not tell people that they did it. They cleaned up the scene to make it look closer to what's in Doctor Strange. They added a credit for the composer for the Doctor Strange theme, which they had forgotten to put into the closing credits. But other than that, they're not going to put this weird ass shape floating down from the heavens. It doesn't make sense. And Doctor Strange has a sling ring. He can show up anywhere. Why would he suddenly be hanging out astral projection wise, coming down from above? Wouldn't he? Yeah. It doesn't make sense that it's anything other than just a mistake, and they were trying to make the scene fit closer to Doctor Strange. And I'm sure that in a week or so, if you go back out to Disney Plus and you watch the closing scene again, that image, that little shape will be gone. I think if it hasn't happened already, I'm pretty sure that somebody's scouring the internet going, "Oh, what did you do?" Yeah. So, yeah, definitely don't see it as anything other than that. All right, we are going to move on to another bit of news. Wait, are we sure it's not mouse-shaped? No, it's not mouse-shaped. It almost looks like the state of New Jersey, which is interesting because WandaVision takes place in New Jersey. Hadn't made that connection until just now. Then again, we're not even sure where she is in the forest, whether she's in the Wundagore Mountains, if she's in Alaska, if she's hiding out at Bruce Banner's cabin where he was in the 2008 Hulk, since there seems to be trying to tie everything back into the 2008 Hulk and Thor the Dark World. It's almost like Phase 4, the end of Phase 3 and Phase 4 is the redemption tour for the Incredible Hulk and Thor the Dark World. They're trying to make both those films seem much more important and make them better just by making people go back and rewatch them. And you know what? They're not horrible films. They're good films. It's just they're not as good as the other MCU films. When you create a level that's up here and you get one or two films that's like here, they get shit on. But you look at other films like Catwoman, Elektra, they're down here. That's a huge difference. So as bad as people talk about Thor the Dark World and the Incredible Hulk, they're still so much better than a lot of the other crap out there. So keep that in mind. And you know what? Hey, there is absolutely a chance, and I'd say maybe a 10% chance, that Kevin Feige comes out tomorrow and goes, yeah, that's absolutely Doctor Strange floating down. We meant to do that. That's what we wanted to do. And, we didn't get a chance to put him in the beginning. We ran out of time. So we wanted to tie that scene together. So that is Doctor Strange floating down, his astral projection. And he and Wanda are going to have an astral projection conversation at the beginning of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So that's exactly what we're doing there. And if that's the case, I will come on here and go, yeah, I was wrong. I looked at the little odd-shaped thing and thought, nope, it's just a lens filter. Or it's a CGI filter. And it turned out to be really Doctor Strange, but I don't see it. It would have to be a case of the white, gold, blue, black dress thing for it to really be Doctor Strange, because I don't see it. And I think everybody who is really want to see it. So, yeah, it's not Doctor Strange. It's not the Vision. And again, if you're going to put Could be the Disney overlords. Well, in that case, everything could be the Disney overlords. Hell, the Disney overlords could be the timekeepers in Loki. But if it was the Disney overlords, what would they be doing? What would they be wanting? Is it really a map of maybe the Avengers compound? And they wanted to subconsciously put it into your head so you'll watch the show and then go to Disney California Adventures so you can see all the new Avengers compound and eat from the Pym test kitchen and have the giant pretzel and drink the giant sodas. And by the way, one of the coolest things, if you haven't watched anything on the Avengers compound at Disney's California Adventures, one of the things you can get there is that soda, that weird green soda that they make in the Incredible Hulk movie. So again, they're really trying to make the Incredible Hulk movie seem relevant or important, but the soda that is at the bottling company that Bruce Banner works at and his blood gets into, and then Stan Lee drinks and he passes out, you can get that soda, sand the blood, without the blood in it, but you can get that soda at the Avengers compound at the Disney park here in Southern California. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm hoping they'll actually start bottling that and making it available, at stores and stuff too. Kyle says that he's not convinced that it's not the Disney overlords and that our Disney overlords are the timekeepers and Mephisto and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Oh, JD likes the hat. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's trying to break this in. Hey, the Incredible Hulk movie is nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. That's exactly what I'm saying. I actually rewatched it not that long ago and really enjoyed the movie. There's some humorous moments in it. I really liked the interaction between Ed Norton and Liv Tyler, especially when they're traveling through New York and they decide to skip the subway and they take the taxi drive, and then the taxi cab driver is worse. Yep, I am. I have no problem with that movie. I think it's a fine movie. It's a fine addition to the MCU. So, all right, guys. We are about halfway through the episode. I have some other news to cover, and then we'll talk Loki. But I think we're going to throw this to a quick break, and then we'll come back and pick up with news on Good Omens. So be right back in a minute. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We're covering some of the news in well, in the entertainment industry. The one that shocked me a little bit today has to be the announcement that Amazon Prime has ordered a second 6 episode season of Good Omens. Now, the reason it surprised me is I kind of thought we were done. I absolutely loved the show. Loved the interaction between David Tennant and Michael Sheen. Thought the cast was great, though I did think they missed one good casting, which would have been Brian May as the devil, because, well, they did so much Queen music, it would have been neat to have Brian May in there as the devil. But it was based on a novel by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, and sadly, Terry Pratchett passed away a couple of years back. So you don't have the original collaboration, and there was only that one novel. So I kind of thought we were done. My friend Lisa, who was a huge fan of the show too, kept saying, "Are we going to get a second season? Are we going to get the second season?" I'm like, I don't see how. There's no source material for it. It was a one and done show, and I think that's what everybody thought. And then Amazon Prime looked and went, "Oh, it was really popular. We should do more." And Neil Gaiman went, "Okay." So he's staying on board as an executive producer, and he's co-show running it. And they're saying that the new season will explore storylines that go beyond the original source material. And they say, having been on Earth since the beginning, and with the apocalypse thwarted, Azrael, and Crowley are getting back to easy living among mortals in London's Soho, when an unexpected messenger presents a surprising mystery. That's kind of the tagline for it. Now, Gaiman said in a blog post that it's been 31 years since Good Omens was published, which means it's 32 years since Terry Pratchett and I lay in our respective beds in a Seattle hotel room at World Fantasy Convention and plotted the sequel. I got to use bits of the sequel in Good Omens. That's where our angels came from. Terry's not here any longer, but when he was, we had talked about what he wanted to do with Good Omens and where the story went next. And now, thanks to BBC Studios and Amazon, I get to take it there. He added that I have enlisted some wonderful collaborators, and John Finmore has come on board to carry the torch with me. So John Finmore is going to co-show run as well and direct it. There are so many questions people have asked about what happens next, and also what happened before to our favorite angel and demon. Here are the answers you've been hoping for. We are back in Soho, and all through time and space, solving a mystery which starts with an angel wandering through Soho with no memory. Now, we know that Michael Sheen and David Tennant are both returning as the leads, but we don't know about any of the other cast members. So I don't know about John Hamm or I think Benedict Cumberbatch did a voice, or any of the other people that showed up in the series. Also, I don't know if they're going to keep doing the Queen music, which I hope they do. But we are going to get some more Good Omens. And I do like the idea that even though there isn't more source material to work from, Gaiman and Pratchett were planning stuff, talking about it, so he can go into it not only knowing what he wanted to do going forward, but he can also bring in what Terry wanted to do. And to me, that's important because I have read some Terry Pratchett. I have read a lot of Neil Gaiman. American Gods, stuff like that. Sandman. And while they're both very good writers, the collaboration was something really unique. And Good Omens was truly a unique property. So it worries me a touch that he'll be able to find that same feel. But like I said, I'm better knowing that he's working with some of the stuff that he and Pratchett were planning. So we'll see how that turns out. And I'm absolutely going to be watching it. So There's no doubt about that. I will absolutely be tuning in for that. All right, one other bit of news before we get to Loki is a show that's very dear to my heart, is Dexter. The return of the Showtime series Dexter is getting more and more interest. And we know that Michael C. Hall is coming back to play the titular serial killer / forensic blood analyst. And that Jennifer Carpenter will return as Deb, which is interesting as she was killed in the final season. Well, now word is that John Lithgow is going to be returning as the Trinity Killer. And he was amazing as Trinity. He won an Emmy as Trinity. And if you don't remember which part he was another serial killer that came, and they were kind of opposing odds, him and Dexter. And Trinity is the one that ended up killing Dexter's wife. I'm going to get to that, JD. Well, now he's coming back, but Trinity was clearly killed at the end of season 4. So what exactly do the writers have in mind for the series? Through all of the season, we kept having Harry, Dexter's adopted father who was dead, played by James Remar, popping up in his head to help guide him. Are we now going to have like a committee of people that have passed to discuss things? Like Dexter comes before, here's John Lithgow, there's Deborah, there's Harry, and they're all like, well, we think you should do this, but I don't know. But they're bringing back a lot of characters that are clearly dead. So your guess is as good as mine is where this is going. But I am curious to see what's in store for the Bay Harbor Butcher and how they'll undo the incredibly unpopular ending the series originally had. The Dexter wearing flannel as a lumberjack in Oregon. I don't think anybody was happy with that ending. To me, that's the classic Supper's Ready ending. And if you're not familiar with the term Supper's Ready, as a writer, you're sitting there, you're working, you're trying to come up with an ending. And then from downstairs, you hear, supper's ready. And you go, damn it. He ends up in a lumberjack in Oregon. I'm done. All right, dinner time. Another example of that to me would have been the movie Magnolia, where the movie's going along. There's all these interpersonal connections, all this stuff going on. And suddenly the writer goes, how am I going to bring this to an end? To hell with it. Frog storm. Giant frogs falling from the sky, killing people. That's Supper's Ready. At least that's my opinion of Supper's Ready. And I think that was the flannel ending. Yep, Lost was like that. There's a lot of shows that were like that too. The two shows that weren't like that, I think they specifically wanted the ending they got, were Seinfeld and Sopranos, and both of those endings sucked. I think they did the exact endings they wanted to. All right, so that takes care of the news. I was just checking. There hasn't really been anything new on the break that pops up. Better than it was all a dream the whole time. Oh, the Bobby Ewing Dallas way. Yes. Yeah. At least when Dallas did it, it was something new. And now everybody's copied that. And now, see, you bring up Newhart, and we talked about Newhart the other day. The Newhart ending was so meta, it was brilliant. Yes, he woke up and then the whole thing was a dream, but it wasn't a giant mystery where the dream just undid the mystery, so you never really got a satisfying answer. This was a TV show that was just a TV show. There wasn't a mystery. And then they ended it in a very meta way by having him wake up in the other show. Saying elsewhere, I have no idea why the snow globe ending. That wasn't Supper's Ready. That was, we did the whole bag of weed. That's that ending. That's the, we're out of Coke, we got to finish it. That's that ending. That's the whole thing is a kid's fantasy in a snow globe. Yeah, yeah. Yep. That was, I don't even know how you would approach that and how that gets brought up in the writer's room and people go, oh, yeah, snow globe. I like it. No, no, no. That's the big bag of weed got brought into the room in the final. It's the only thing that makes sense. All right, guys, shall we move on to maybe preview a little bit of tonight's Loki? Nose candy is the only solution. No, it's not the only solution. It's the only explanation for that solution. All right, moving on to Loki. So what's the greater sin? Dinner time conclusions or milking a great show for way too long with a decent series wrap? I think the biggest problem with American television is it never knows when to leave. Shark jumping, yeah. Or what's the new term for it now? I just heard it. There's a new term for it now, and I can't think of it. I have to think about that. But yeah, shark jumping is when you desperately change the show and do something ridiculous just for ratings. Supper's Ready is coming up with an unsatisfactory answer just to finish. But staying on too long, that's a horrible thing that a lot of American television shows do. X-Files is a classic example of that. When Mulder and Scully left the show and they brought in two completely different people, it should have just ended there. And there's other shows like that too. British television shows tend to leave early, leave when the audience is still wanting more. And that's a brilliant way to go, because that way they're always like, oh, no, we want one more season. Instead of, oh, no, we don't want this last season. Can you take it away? We're going to pretend it didn't exist. Yeah. So Brian says he liked Doggett. There was nothing wrong with Doggett, but it wasn't X-Files anymore. You know? And it just got weirder. And yeah. Some folks still liked it. And don't get me wrong, I was a huge X-Files fan. I went to an X-Files convention in it's a hangar for dirigibles in the middle of nowhere in Orange County. And they took it over to do an X-Files convention, and I went there for that. So I was a big X-Files fan. But no, I think they should have ended it when Mulder and Scully went away. Even though they came back, should have just ended it there. But, all right, let's get on to Loki. Now, tonight's Loki, we got a new episode, or tomorrow morning, depending on where you're at. And things are looking pretty grim for our wayward Asgardian and his variant companion. Their last chance to leave the Doom Moon blew up in front of them, and their temp pad is in pieces and out of energy. This looks really bad for them. Take care, JD. Good to see you. Hopefully you'll be around tomorrow. So this looks really bad for them, unless one of them is lying or the TVA comes to save them. But then again, why save them? If you're just going to hunt and destroy these variants, why save them if they're in an apocalypse that's going to end? So now the Loki mid-season trailer was released, and even though it's almost 2 minutes long, the majority of the footage is stuff we've already seen. So it's not really a teaser trailer for going forward, but there's a couple bits in there we need to pull out. I mean, it's a minute 20 into the trailer before we get footage that hasn't already aired or hasn't already showed up in another trailer. We get young Sylvie being brought into the TVA. Then we get an image of, this one got me, a big U.S. military warship being dropped onto the land. There's markings on it that says 173, and it says the U.S., and then there's a name, but I can't make out the name. So I'm sure someone is going to blow it up on a 4K, take a look at it, or we'll see it tonight. And it's probably an important ship, but There's a giant ship on land that falls out of the sky. Uh, then it looks like we see them sitting there as Lamentis 1 is being destroyed. Then we get both Loki and Sylvie back at the TVA being walked along by guards, and both of them wearing that time twister device around their necks. And Loki's complaining that he should have an equal number of guards as Sylvie because he's just as dangerous, and it's insulting that he doesn't. And then finally, we get a glimpse of Loki and Sylvie fighting hunters and Minutemen in a very green-colored area. And I keep getting the feeling from other clips that we've seen that this might be the area where the timekeepers are, that they work their way towards the timekeepers at some point. So that's what that scene makes me think of. But again, don't know. And it's not much to go on, but we do know they get captured, which means it may be Mobius and the TVA that rescue Loki and Sylvie from Lamentis 1 as it's being destroyed. But again, why would they do that if they just leave them there and then they're gone? They're taken care of. We also get a glimpse of Loki near a throne, which could be his, like, thing from Loki, but it could also be the Timekeepers. Now, there's no sign of President Loki or any of those scenes in this mid-season trailer, which is strange because that's something we've already seen images of in previous trailers, so they could have thrown it in there. But it's not. So now, what we might be getting from this episode is more of Sylvie's backstory. I think that's what we're going to get. With this being the fourth episode, I think we need to clarify all the players before pushing towards the finale. I'd expect we'd learn who she is and how she's been fighting the TVA since she was a child, hence being let in, the little kid version of her being let in. The thing is, with a show like this, you just about anything that could happen or can happen, kind of like WandaVision, where they could go in any direction because they're working outside the grounded reality. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was more predictable just because there was a finite amount of possibilities for both the established characters and for what Marvel would be willing to do with them. Here, the sky is the absolute limit. They could kill off this version of Loki and then just give us another one. You know, maybe we kill off this one and we go forward with President Loki or another version of Loki. As long as it's Tom Hiddleston playing a version of Loki, are we really going to complain? Are we really that attached to this variant as opposed to the one that died in Endgame? No, Infinity War? I don't know. And they could spend half the episode with Sylvie laying out her life story only to discover that the whole thing has been in her head and they're still on the train going to the Ark. The Timekeepers could really be benevolent beings trying to make the best timeline possible, or they could not exist at all. And the whole sacred timeline is an evil machination of someone like Kang or maybe another version of Loki, like an older version of Loki. There really is no limits to where this show could go. So making predictions is kind of tough. You follow along, you pick the clues up. So I can predict, I could figure out stuff like all the time the TVA employees are variants. That seemed obvious for me from the very first episode. Or that the sacred timeline isn't an existing timeline. It's one that the TV or the timekeepers are using the TVA to manipulate to happen because it gives them the most power. I still think that is a legit thing that's going to end up being the case. But are there actual timekeepers? Have they been replaced? Is it all the great and powerful Oz type thing? Is it all Kang? And they keep saying Kang doesn't show up in this series. But you have to keep in mind that Kang has had multiple names. He's also been like Rama Tut and the Scarlet Centurion. So maybe he's not Kang at this point. Maybe he's just one of his other identities. Or maybe one of his other identities is the Timekeeper or the person at the end of the universe, whatever that guy's name is. Is Miss Minute also a variant? I'm going to say no, but she is somebody important. There has been talk from the director and from Tara Strong, the actress who's voicing her, that she's going to have a full story arc or character arc. And there was also talk that they originally wanted to have Minutes in every episode, and they realized they couldn't find a way to really put her in episode 3 with it making sense. So we're probably going to see more of her at some point. Is she a variant? I don't think she is. I think she's going to turn out to be something more on the bad guy side. And while the series could go anywhere, it's still being written by normal writers who tend to follow stuff like, the 3-act structure. And with a 6-episode series, episodes 3 and 4 are the second act, where you want the action to keep rising, the stakes to get higher and higher, and usually the worst possible thing you could do to your characters happens to cause some big crisis. And that's how you end the second act. So if they are following that, which all of these really do tend to follow, we're going to end up with the worst case scenario by the end of this episode. Loki and Sylvie captured by the TVA, and we find out they are the bad guys. But I also think that Loki is going to find a way to tell Mobius about him being a variant, which will change Mobius's path and put him to kind of discovering stuff. And there's a good chance he's going to learn that all those trophies that Judge Renslayer has in her office that he doesn't remember bringing back, and that she's got to keep her another analyst on the side, it's probably just him. And it's that he probably keeps starting to figure things out, and they mind wipe him again. So he is the one that's been leaving the rings and the one bringing back all of those objects, but they keep mind wiping him to keep him in line. Now, so like I said, I think the worst thing's going to happen. It's going to be a crisis, and it's going to all set up for the third act and the big conclusion, which is what needs to happen. Now, without having found out that all the TVA employees are actually variants, there's a better than average chance that that's when, by the end next episode, that's when Mobius will find out. And that we're going to find out that the timekeepers or whoever's behind the TVA are the bad guys. And that Sylvie is more of a hero than a villain. That is where I think we're going to end up going, because right now, when you step back, you can see the TVA are just wiping out people. They're manipulating the timeline for the sacred timeline. But there's nothing that says the sacred timeline is the right timeline, or that these variants really need to be destroyed. And where they talk about the multiversal war having been a long time ago, most likely it's still in the future. It's still to come in our timeline. To them, it's in the past. Yeah, Brian, I agree with you. As much as I liked last episode, it was short. It was a good 10 minutes shorter than the other episodes. And it felt 10 minutes shorter. So I'm really hoping we get a full-length episode. We get a good, 45-minute episode, so that we get as much stuff as we can. Because, again, I think they need to wrap up the mystery, not the mystery, but they need to wrap up all the information we get, give us the rest of the clues, so that we could just have 2 full blast ongoing last 2 episodes without as much exposition as we've been getting. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. I think we need to get the rest of the information so we can finish this up. Yes, there's 3 episodes left, but I think we get so much exposition in this show, so much explanation, that we're kind of done with that. We need to wrap that up And then just episodes 5 and 6 have to be reveals and action. That's all it needs. All we need is reveals and action. Who are the timekeepers? Who's behind this whole TVA thing? What's really going on? Where did Sylvie come from? Is she Enchantress? Is she a Loki variant? Is she something in between? This is the last time we should get just more clues, and we should start getting answers in episodes 5 and 6. So, all right, guys, that has been a fast show today. I appreciate you guys jumping in. Elevator, Brian, JD, Kyle on the board. Thank you for running it. And I will be back tomorrow. I don't know what the topic's going to be. I will give you a non-spoiler review of Loki tomorrow. But if you guys have any topics you want me to cover, let me know. I take suggestions, and if there's a character you want me to do a deep dive on, something like that, let me know. Or if there's a guest you think I should get on the show. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great evening. I will be back in 2 hours with Kyle to do In Stores This Week, where we cover all the new books coming out. So tune in for that, and stay tuned for our next show, which I don't know what it is, but they'll tell you. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in a couple hours. Good night.